On April 7th, 2005, Ronan Michael Flynn was born to Kevin and Ann Flynn in West Babylon, New York. While my parents still debate whether or not this is the real story of how I got my name, on the way to the hospital on the radio was playing a song covered by Ronan Tynan, the Irish tenor. When I was an infant, my mom read a lot of books about raising a newborn, and they all told her to play me classical music. Why? I'm sure even she really didn't know. My parents weren't very musical, my mom being a kindergarten teacher and my dad being a firefighter. I'd say the most musical thing that happened in that house was the scary bear. As a gift to my family to celebrate my birth, we were given a stuffed bear. I was terrified of this bear. Adorned with a baby blue sweater, this bear would play the song Baby Mine from the Dumbo movie. This song quickly became my mom's favorite lullaby to sing to me, and she would sing it to me every night before bed. It became a part of me and my mom's things. The kissing hand, my baby, try it, you'll like it. They're all such pivotal parts of my childhood. Unbeknownst to my mom, she had inadvertently planted the seeds of a love for music. While most of my musical experiences were inherently rooted in music, I found that some of my most influential experiences that have led me to becoming a musician haven't had any kind of musical intention. When I was 5 years old, I was digging through my dad's closet when I came across a GameCube. Naturally, at 5 years old, I had no clue what this box could do, but after consulting with my dad, he told me all about his favorite games that he played when he was younger. One of these included The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. I was infatuated with this game, as much as a 5-year-old could be at least. The entire game is centered around an ocarina, a musical instrument widely popular in Eastern Asia that eventually made its way to Europe. In the game, using your controller, you can play different notes on the ocarina, which led me to experimenting and mostly just playing with the notes whenever I could. Then, one fateful day, walking around the Christmas tree shop, I met an older boy with an ocarina around his neck. The very same ocarina from the game. I was in awe, to say the least. I went up to him and I asked him about it and for him to play it, and he actually could. This moment altered my brain chemistry, and it sparked an undying love for ocarina and its beautiful sound. While we were leaving the store, though I hadn't known, my mom was talking to that boy to find out where he got the ocarina from. The following Christmas, under the tree, was my very first instrument. While poorly tuned and made out of plastic, I still loved it. It was mine. I soon shifted all of my time from playing with Legos and started to learn how to play songs from Zelda on the ocarina. This led me to grow a love for music and being independent and trying to figure things out on my own. In the coming years, I would get more ocarinas of varying sizes and tunings, and I'm proud to say I still remember how to play some things. However, the ocarina did prove to be a thing of my childhood, and I never continued to foster my skills as I grew older. In 4th grade, following a recorder sequence, every student had to pick an instrument to play. To my dismay, I came to find that I couldn't pick an ocarina. Shocker, right? I had to select my top 3 instruments shown at an assembly and hand them in and it would be chosen for me. Of course, I get my 3rd and last choice, violin. I was definitely quick to jump to conclusions about the instrument. I didn't like it, not a bit. My teacher was old and made me practice for a whole 15 minutes a week. I wanted to quit, but my mom wouldn't let me in hopes that I'd be the next big Irish fiddle player. Thankfully, I stuck with it, and I was able to adapt and gain some of my greatest friends from playing violin. This was my first experience in any kind of ensemble, and I found it incredibly rewarding to be part of something related to music. In 5th grade, I had my first experience with any kind of art song festival. New York State School Music Association, NYSMA for short. After speaking with my orchestra teacher, we decided that I'd be doing Beethoven's Minuet in G. It was an easy piece, but as my first one, it was still a trying task. I remember being super nervous in that room, but after I had been adjudicated and done my sight reading, I came out and I'd gotten a perfect score. All of my hard work had been worth it. This was the beginning of my journey with violin, and I would come to play until 9th grade before quitting to get more serious about choir. While I was doing music in school with violin, outside of school, I was undertaking my first musical endeavor. In 4th grade, I was going to see my cousin in a production of Peter Pan Jr. I had expressed interest in doing theater previously, but I hadn't recently, so I have no clue where this came from. Out of nowhere, during the introduction of the show, the director called me out from the audience and mentioned that I would be joining coming that fall. Considering you can't really turn down something like that, there I was, playing the door in Alice in Wonderland. It was small, but that's what I loved about it. It felt like for a couple hours a day, I could slip into someone I'm not and just have fun away from home with my friends. After this show, I continued to do theater and had riveting roles such as The Cat in the Hat and Shrek. After I got out of middle school and came to the high school, I was put at a crossroads when I was informed by my new director that I wouldn't be able to wrestle and do the musical. As much as I loved wrestling and had been doing it for years, I bit the bullet, and I decided that I would do the musical. Every single one of those pretentious theater kids told me that I was better off doing wrestling because as a freshman, I would just get ensemble anyway. Auditions came, and I nailed it. We were doing Into the Woods, and I had gotten Jack. Against all odds, I'd come in and worked hard and done my best, and it worked. During the entire process, I gave my all and made a great impression on everyone in the department. And I felt like I really belonged. Later on, I did the shows in my junior and senior year, leading to me being a finalist at the Roger Rees Awards 2 years in a row. This was a great experience because it helped me gain confidence in myself as a performer and a musician. Getting to be surrounded by people who I thought were a million times better than me really helped me put in perspective how much I love performing, regardless of my skill level. A little part of me always disliked musical theater. The environment, the people. Just a little part of my brain didn't feel right about it. Until around my junior year, when I became comfortable in my skin as a performer and started to recognize it's what sets me apart from others, and that's not a bad thing. The song you've been listening to, Wandering, from the Bridges of Madison County, was the first song I ever sang in a cabaret. Just a raw, emotional performance. No cast, no set, just me and an audience. It was so intimate and beautiful, and I loved every second of it. This experience changed my perspective on musical theater forever. And if not for musical theater, I wouldn't be the musician who I am today. At the end of 8th grade, right before coming to high school, I was very ready to quit music. There was no world to me where I continued to sing and dance and do that kind of stuff. It just wasn't for me. I wanted to be able to allocate my time into better things that would really benefit me. This was until I met a girl named Jenna. Jenna and I are good friends now, but at one point, 8th grade me had a pretty big crush on Jenna. Jenna was in choir, and she questioned why I wasn't going to do choir. She probably didn't even think twice about the conversation at the time, but it really began to eat away at me. Why aren't I doing choir? I'd never done choir before. But Jenna was in choir, so why wouldn't I do it? It would just give me an excuse to talk to Jenna, and that's good enough for me. I emailed my advisor immediately. As my schedule had already been made, I begged to be enrolled in choir. At first, they didn't listen, but eventually they caved and I was allowed to enroll. In this choir is where I met my most influential role model, Marianne Kafira. For the next 4 years, Ms. Kafira would act as a teacher, a mentor, and above all, a shoulder to lean on. I definitely was not the best, but she cared. That's what matters. In my county, you need to get a certain score and voice to be able to do our all-county choir. Ms. Kafiro went out of her way to send an appeal to the board and allow me to participate, even though I had never done NYSSMA for voice. This was only the beginning, for lack of a better word, favors that Ms. Kafiro would do for me. In 10th grade, I told Ms. Kafiro once again that I was done with music forever, and in short, she told me she wouldn't allow it. She contacted the guidance department and made sure I was enrolled in her classes for the coming year. She actually made it impossible to leave music. There's an endless list of ways that she's benefited me through the years. She taught me how to think creatively, how to be a leader, and what it looks like to be a great music educator. Approaching my senior year of high school, I was pretty sure that I had made up my mind. I was a junior in high school, concerned with things other than singing for the rest of my life. I was ready for real things like law school and a 401k. I had 16 schools picked out, Common App ready, computer science, general mathematics, applied statistics, not a single music school. I didn't care. It was over. I was growing up, and that's what growing up's about. Walking into the Chili's in Farmingdale, New York, on July 15th, 2022, I received an email from the National Association for Music Education. I had been admitted to the NAFME All-National Choir. What? Totally out of left field, and something I had applied to in passing because I thought it would have been kind of funny. Singing in a national choir. As a tenor 1. I don't know who would have allowed me to do either of those things, let alone both at the same time. Still, I stood strong. It was a little ego stroke, granted, but it's not like it was going to change the trajectory of my life, right? Right? Accompanied by the aforementioned Miss Cafiro, in November of 2022, I took off on a plane to DC to sing in a choir I definitely did not belong in. The first day, Miss Cafiro told me she wanted me to meet her friend. This friend was Dr. Jason Vodica. It was a really funny conversation in retrospect because I told him that I definitely wasn't going into music, but that I'm still grateful for the experience I was getting. He explained to me that's a shame and encouraged me to continue to consider. Then he went on to tell me about a new vocal staff hire he was super excited about. Brian Emil. Which is pretty coincidental considering Brian Emil is now my vocal coach. It was a small interaction at best, but it was enough. All of my pre-screens were sent out the following week. I did it. I'm not totally sure what changed, but something changed, and I could never forgive myself if I never tried. I'd never felt so in tune and in touch with the other performers around me more than I did during this performance. It was like the people I'd spent the past few days with had intertwined with me mind, body, and soul. One collective working towards the same goal. It was honestly super weird. This piece that's been playing is my favorite piece from the set. For one of our rehearsals, we were instructed not to bring our binders, only the music for this piece and a pencil. We spent an hour breaking down every phrase, every minor melodic motif, anything and everything that could mean something we found. At the time, I was so confused on how this could be helpful, but it proved to show how much being connected to the text and exigence of a piece can truly affect your performance. Fast forward to January 21st, 2023, my first audition. I remember waking up and singing my rep in the shower while I made sure to do my full hair routine to make sure it looked good for my audition. I stepped in the car, and by the time we hit the highway, I was asleep. The next time my eyes opened, we were in the parking lot of the Fine Arts Building. I am a shaker. When I'm nervous, I get very shaky and a dry mouth. Possibly the worst combination for a singer. While I still say it was because it was extra cold that day, I think my mom knew it was for a different reason. I walked into my audition room, and as soon as I said good morning, I knew I was going to enjoy this. My voice boomed in the space. My voice had never done that. I sang my songs, and I'm assuming that it went well, but what really was the best part of my audition was my interview. I stepped into the room, expecting someone stern and mean and ready to reject me from their program, and in fact, it was quite the opposite. It was Dr. Perry, my current music education professor. I spoke with her about my musical experience and how my audition went. I told her specifics just to make conversation, and I mentioned a comment made by the guy with the cool hair. I still, to this day, don't really know who that must have been, but Dr. Perry laughed and naturally tried guessing names. Then, through a series of events, I got to explain my favorite feature about myself. My hair. At my audition for a music education program where I should be selling myself and my expertise, in the 10 minutes I had, I decided to take that time why I love my hair and why it's so important to me. I wasn't cut short, nor set back on task. I was simply listened to. It's kind of like when you're doing interview prep and they're like, be yourself, but don't really be yourself. Be the best version of yourself that employers would still find desirable. I'm not sure what at all possessed me to do this, but I did it. And it went great. March 4th, after attending an open house, I had the conversation with my mom. The conversation. It was time to decide what I was going to do. I'd heard from every school, and it somehow still didn't help my decision. I spoke with my mom about how much I liked Rider, but I wouldn't want to go there unless I was 100% going to do music. We conversed more about what that would look like for me, and I decided I was done wasting time deliberating. I went upstairs, and I got the quarter, kept on top of a jar full of change on my desk. This quarter was exclusively used for big decisions. There it was. Heads, I never find out. Tails, I commit to Rider right now for music ed. I spin the coin into the air, flip it onto the back of my palm. Tails. I had my decision. Whether I was in control or not, I knew that the coin had made the right decision. I'm now in my second semester of my first year here, and I think about that day a lot. I think about how if I flicked that coin just a little harder, I never would have known how much I love music. I never would have been able to connect with other people again in my music making, and every time I stray from music, it somehow caught up to me. A couple days after my commitment, I received a card from my aunt for my birthday. My aunt has always been incredibly involved in her church, so a Bible verse or two was not out of the ordinary. I opened my card, $18, and a short note, closing with a Bible verse in usual fashion. Verses 24 through 26, the book of Numbers.